Hey guys, Effie here. Welcome back to the Ton's fourth day for our mini blog hops to celebrate our third anniversary release. For today's projects, I used our Coming Up Daisies cluster stamp set. I started off by stamping this cluster image onto some mixed media paper. I had this mixed media paper pad lying around for the longest time. It's Canson brand. It was fairly inexpensive and I decided to try it out a while ago, but I never really used it. So I wanted to use it today because I was going to be doing some light watercoloring using my Zig markers. It's a fairly light paper, lighter than 80-pound cardstock, but it actually held up really well with my Zig watercoloring today. So I think I will be using the rest of this paper pad in the future. So anyway, back to the project. I started off by using my Carmine red Zig marker to add my base layer of color to all of my daisies. When I put down that base layer of Carmine red, the paper is not wet. Usually when I watercolor, I always wet the paper before I paint to get that better blend, but I don't do that with my Zig markers. After I put down the base layer of color, I blend all the color out using my fine tip Pentel Aqua brush. After I blend out some of that base coloring, I do go back to rework some of the areas to add additional shading with my Carmine red. But I don't add too much shading because I will be using a second darker red Zig marker later on to give it a little bit more contrast. So right now I'm just kind of doing some preliminary shading. If you don't have a fine tip aqua brush, a fine tip paintbrush will also work, especially for our Coming Up Daisies cluster image. The images are not that large, so you want to use a brush that has more of a fine tip because it'll be easier for you to watercolor. This set was great to practice the detail watercoloring. I haven't really done this in a while, but I really enjoyed doing it because I got to use my Zig markers that I haven't used in a while. So after I finish painting my petals, I go in to paint the centers of my daisies. I use my wine red Zig marker and my dark brown Zig marker to paint the centers. I blend a little bit of the wine red and then I add the dark brown in the centers of the daisies, but then I actually go in and dot a little bit more of the wine red into that already red area just to give it a little bit more definition. Next, I'm going to take the same wine red Zig marker and I'm just going to add more shading to my daisy petals. And I just use a very light flicking motion to add this little bit of detail to my daisy petals. You want to do this technique with a bit of a lighter touch because the cluster image is more delicate than our usual cluster images. But the Zig markers make it really easy to color in this image because they have that real brush tip. And then if you're using the fine tip aqua brush or a fine tip paintbrush, you're all set to color this image. Then I'm just going to color in the rest of my daisies using the same technique. Once I'm done with the red portion of my coloring, I'm going to start coloring in the foliage. I start off by using my emerald green Zig marker to add a base layer to all of my leaves and stems. Once I'm done adding that base layer of emerald green, I'm going to switch off between my green Zig marker and my marine green Zig marker to add shading to the rest of the leaves. I add a bit of the darker greens to the areas that appear behind my petals, and this will give the illusion of depth. Once I finish coloring, I'm going to stamp my sentiment, which is from the same set, in our Noir Dye ink right onto the panel. Then I trimmed my panel just a bit with my guillotine trimmer. Then I adhered my painted panel onto a side-folding A2 card base. Lastly, I embellished my card using our clear rhinestones, which give it a very subtle and delicate look, but a nice finished look at the same time. So thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to head over to the blog because we have some really cool giveaways and some great inspiration from our team and guests. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.